For this project, you are going to need your yarn, a crochet hook that's compatible with the yarn and the size, a stitch marker, a darning needle, and a pair of scissors. We are going to begin with a magic circle. So you take your yarn, put it around your fingers like this, turn it once, and turn it over the other piece of yarn to create a kind of X. Now take your hook, going through one of the loops, pull the other loop through, like that, holding it loose, take it off your fingers, and then make one chain to anchor it into place. Pull that tight, and here we've created a magic circle. Now we are going to do 6 single crochets into this magic circle. 1, 2, 'After you've done 6 single crochets, we can now close the circle by pulling the tail tightly. Place your stitch marker into the last stitch, so the one that's right behind the hook. And now for round 1, we're going to make an increase into each stitch around. So beginning with the first stitch over here, we are going to make 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So go into the first one and make 1 single crochet and 2. Now into the next stitch, 1 and 2. Next stitch, 1 and 2. Next stitch, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Before we crochet into the last stitch, I'm going to remove the stitch marker and then make 1 and 2. And now place the stitch marker into the last stitch, which is right behind the hook. For the next round, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets into one. So 1 regular, 1 increase, 1 regular, 1 increase. Here is 1 single crochet. In the next one we make 2. 1 and 2. Next one we make 1. The one after, 1 and 2. 1, 1 and 2. One. The last one should be an increase stitch. So again, I'm going to remove the stitch marker, make that one an increase, 1 and 2. And replace the stitch marker into the last stitch. For next round, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase in the third one. So 1, 2, and then 1 and 2 in the same one. So we do 2 regular stitches and then an increase. 1, 1, 2, and then an increase, 1 and 2 in the same stitch. 1, 2, and then an increase, 1 and 2. The next round is going to be 3 stitches and then an increase in the 4th one. 3 and then an increase in the 4th. So 1, 2, 3, and then an increase. 1 and 2. Again. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 and 2 in the same one. Our next few rows we're going to continue in the same fashion, each row making more stitches in between each increase. So this past row was 3 stitches and then an increase in the 4th one. So next row is going to be 4 stitches and then an increase in the 5th one. And the row after that is going to be 5 stitches and then an increase in the 6th one. And the row after is going to be 6 stitches and then an increase in the 7th one, and so on and so forth until you have a big enough circle that'll fit the crown of the head for which you're making the hat. Just remember to keep count of where you're holding. Now we are going to do 4 stitches and then an increase. I have now reached the size that I want, and I have come to 8 stitches in between each increase. Depending on the size you are making, your stitches will vary in amounts. You can see that now we have a nice circle over here, and we can even see that nice little design from all the increases that it made over here. The next step, we are going to do a pattern of 1 row without increase, and then 1 row with increase, then again 1 row without and 1 row with. So remembering that I'm holding by 8 stitches in between each increase, which means next increase row will be 9 stitches in between. But first I'm going to make 1 row of just crocheting without increasing. Now we do a increase row. For me, it's going to be 9 stitches in between each increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we again make a row of just crocheting without any increase. Now we are going to do our final increase row, which for me is going to be 10 stitches in between each increase. Now we have finished all of our increase rows, and now it's going to be just regular crocheting in the round, all around, row by row, until you have the size that you want for your hat, and then we're going to make the brim. Remember to change your stitch marker with every row so that you remember what's the first stitch of the row. So I'll meet you back when I have the size that I need, and then we're going to do the brim. Once you're satisfied with the length of the hat, now we're going to make the brim. So for the brim, we're going to do simply another extra rows of however long you want the brim to be. If you want it to be short, if you want it to be longer, that's how many rows you're going to make, continuing going in the round, just like we did up until now. The last row for the brim, we are going to crochet in the opposite direction. So we can remove the stitch marker already when you've reached that last stitch, and now turn your work, and we're going to crochet this row over here all around. Once you've reached the end, we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch of the row to close it up. And that's it. Now you can cut your yarn. Pull it through the loop to close it. And now all that's left to do is sew in our ends and fold up the brim. Grab your darning needle and sew them in. And that's it! Your hat is done! I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and good luck with your project. All the best!